Nintendo wants to help you learn how to make games. The Division is expanding in some interesting new ways. And let's get deeper into Resident Evil Village. All that and the latest and everything cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and it is my absolute pleasure to be able to bring you the latest and everything cool, and that is because of our friends at the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments going on every weekend, and you don't want to miss out on the action. You can join up with them at tgs.gg. All right, today's rundown is going out to Daniel M11, who says, if you listen carefully to the Andrew Garfield interview, he is obviously in Spider-Man No Way Home. Listen very well. He never says straight no. So that is Daniel M11 with the optimism and the hopefulness that Andrew Garfield and I guess Tobey Maguire will be in Spider-Man No Way Home. We all want that, right? We want it, but we want to be surprised, even though we've been talking about it for about 2 years at this point. All right, listen, we got lots of news to get to. Let's get started with the rundown. Nintendo did a surprise reveal of a brand new idea that they've got coming out. It's kind of hard to call this a game. It's called the Game Builder's Garage, and it's a budget-priced title, so it's going to retail for about 40 bucks Canadian, probably about 30 bucks American, and the whole idea here, as you can kind of tell from some of this footage, is to get people, families, I would imagine, young, players out there to experiment with crafting and building their own video games. And they've got a whole bunch of guided lessons in there. You're controlling these little characters that they've put into the game called nodons, I think that's how they pronounce it. And you set paths for them, you give them all kinds of different AI attributes, and then you can kind of just keep monkeying around and build all kinds of ideas. And the whole concept here is, of course, you're going to get some guided education on how to, work with the tools that Nintendo has crafted, and then eventually you are just going to be able to, use your imagination and craft whatever the heck that you want to, which is pretty damn impressive. We've seen this kind of idea before with games like Dreams from Media Molecule, which has been out for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 platforms for, I think, coming on a couple of years if you talk about the early access. And then I think the big granddaddy of building your own video game experiences out there, especially in terms of market capitalization, is Roblox, which recently went public and was valued at $45 billion. And so if that isn't going to be an inspirational kick in the butt for game makers out there to, provide some tools to developers or to, burgeoning developers, I don't know what is. Nintendo has tried this before, obviously, with Super Mario Maker games, which are phenomenal, but I think this kind of opens things up in some pretty exciting ways. Obviously, you can make your platformers, you can make 2D types of experiences, you can make space shooters, you can create all kinds of obstacles and things like that the players will have to deal with. But I think what's really impressive is they give you some art tools, they give you some fundamentals on building stuff in 2D and in 3D. And I think what this will really help to show, especially because Nintendo's game makers are part of the creation of this, is how tough it is to make games, but how, unbelievably open-ended video game development can be. You can kind of conceive of anything and make a video game out of it. So I'm very excited to check out the software, but also to see how people's imagination with Game Builder's Garage kind of flourishes, because of course you can make things and share them and download other people's work. That comes out very soon, by the way. It comes out on June 11th for the Nintendo Switch. The thing that's going to be coming out not too long from now is a new Division game called Heartland, which Ubisoft revealed today. This is a new take. It's a standalone experience, and it's free to play. And what Ubisoft is trying to do here is really expand out on the success of the Division as it stands right now. There are 40 million active users that have participated in playing Division titles over the years. And there's also a Division movie coming with Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain. That's coming to Netflix, and some of the people that were involved in Deadpool and the John Wick movies are involved with this as well, which is pretty cool. But we've seen the Division kind of take different attempts with storytelling right from the get-go. It's been kind of a transmedia conception. Obviously, it's under the Tom Clancy brand name, so there is a you know, a loose connection to the storytelling that Tom Clancy is famous for. And there's also a kind of an authenticity and this kind of spooky surreality about it, because, you know, obviously the Division games are about some crazy pandemic that overtakes the world, and then all kinds of people go nuts, and all of these different factions and gangs start erupting all over the place. And Massive, who has worked on this title, has done a phenomenal job. What's interesting about Heartland is that it's going to be made by a different studio at Ubisoft. Of course, you know, all of the studios that Ubisoft has around the world, they kind of share responsibilities. But it's Red Storm, who's got a long history with Division games in the past. They didn't have any footage of Heartland. They just announced it today. But, you know, they've dabbled with animation. Here's a little bit of an animated bit that they developed for the Gangs of New York, or the Warlords of New York DLC that they put together for the Division 2. You know, they really have something very cool with this property. It was kind of a sci-fi take, you know, a future-looking take on the Tom Clancy kind of universe. But I've always felt that it was incredibly compelling, and one of the things that I've enjoyed about the Division right from the get-go is you know, they're utilizing a lot of the familiar and then burning it down and making it all beautiful but completely devastated and dystopian, and it's shocking to play through that. And, you know, when they were making the Division 2, we had an amazing trip out to Washington, D.C. to interview the developers, and they had done a 1-to-1 scale recreation of big chunks of the city to put into the game. So it was incredibly eye-opening how much love and energy and effort they put into these titles. And now I think what they're doing, Ubisoft is, you know, clearly looking at the buckets and buckets of money that companies like Epic and EA, you know, Valorant and Apex Legends, all of these big games that are free to play right now are making a lot of these companies, and they want a little piece of that action with an IP that is proven. And I have to say kudos to Massive, you know, like they took a bit of a gamble with this property, and they, you know, they made it a persistent role-playing type of experience. It wasn't really a shooter, but it used a lot of shooter mechanics. And, you know, a lot of people became dissatisfied with the endgame stuff, but I think it proved itself over time, and the developers kept listening, and they kept adding endgame content. I think most people that were with the Division 1 were very happy with the Division 2. And I'm just excited to see what they're working on now with Lucasfilm as well, because they're going to be working on a Star Wars game, and clearly that is Ubisoft corporate having a lot of faith in what Massive is able to accomplish, and also Lucasfilm saying, I would like to see these developers work with our IP and make a cool Star Wars game. So, you know, there you go. For fans of the Division, you've got more coming, and you don't have to spend any money if you want to play some. And for fans of Star Wars games, you've got a Massive developed Star Wars game coming down the pipeline, which is really cool. All right, let's talk about the big game that's coming out tomorrow, Resident Evil Village. I can tell you right now that this game is terrifying, and I love it. And it has a complete hold over me. And I don't know how to pronounce that tall lady's name, but she's a lot like Mr. X, you know, like we saw in Resident Evil 2. She clambers around inside of the castle that you're trying to navigate through. There's all kinds of puzzles that you have to solve, and secrets that you have to find, and weapons that you have to pick up. But you are incredibly vulnerable in this game, and it's so artfully crafted. It really shines. It really feels... I've been playing it on the PlayStation 5. It really feels like a next-gen leap in immersion, you know? And I was playing it late at night last night, and yes, it's... Somebody used the term pancake video game because it's off of a flat screen. It's not VR like Resident Evil 7 was. But I was completely sucked into this universe. It is so well crafted, so detailed. The HDR lighting is phenomenal. The you know, the ray tracing and all the you know, the highlights and stuff that you'll see coming off of light sources and bouncing off of everything. It's just utterly astounding. It is so gorgeous. And it's, you know, it transports you. It's a bit oppressive, like Resident Evil games tend to be. I mean, there's a Definitely been some moments as I've been playing it where it's just like, I don't know if I can take this, man. I feel too vulnerable and afraid, and I feel like something's gonna just stab me, and you do get stabbed a hell of a lot. Ethan Winters just is like a pincushion in this game, and he takes the abuse, holy crap, and you feel it, man. And you know, there's a lot of speculation that this is going to be a PSVR 2 game, or maybe eventually ported to PC and you can play it on the Oculus platforms or the other VR platforms out there. I would think that that Capcom's got a long kind of idea for where Resident Evil Village is going to go, and I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a VR experience. But I can tell you, the pancake version, quote-unquote pancake version off of the TV, I don't feel like I'm missing much. You know, it's so immersive, and it's not just the visuals either. It's the audio fidelity of the game too. The surround sound, the fact that you hear your feet shuffle and scuffle wherever you're moving and walking is a bit unnerving, which I think is part of you know, Resident Evil game-making lore. You don't always know if those are your footsteps, and often they're not, and it's so freaking creepy. But there's lots of, you know, great guttural noises from monsters that you're gonna encounter along the way. I've had a couple of really epic, monstrous interactions so far, which I won't spoil, and they're just so well done, you know. Lots and lots of great little touches and beautiful little hooks that keep you going, and certainly, like a lot of Resident Evil games, it's like, what do I have to combine with this, and where do I go and find this, and how do I put this, what am I supposed to do right now? I gotta go find this knife, where is it? And then you're looking at your map, and the map's a bit confusing because you don't know where you gotta go. But you guys have played a Resident Evil game before. You get better weaponry, you augment it, you make the weaponry cooler and tougher, and reload faster, and then almost invariably you find that your weapons are kind of useless against some of the bigger enemies in the game. But yeah, I'm loving it. I can't really hang a score on it yet, but what I've been playing so far, definitely 8.59 kind of frame, for sure. I don't know if I like it more than 7. I think 7 was so groundbreaking, and the setting of it was so cool, and of course I played big chunks of that game in VR, and and it was so fresh, you know? And this feels like you need to have 7 sort of back-pocketed before you can really appreciate this one. So, but it's amazing. It's a really, really fun Resident Evil game. Definitely a little bit more action-oriented as well. I mean, there are parts of the game, I talked about it yesterday a little bit, because you're inside of a castle. I kept thinking of Castle Wolfenstein. It kept floating through my mind, the various Castle Wolfenstein games that I've played over the years. But yeah, this is not to be missed. All right, I've got just a couple quick things to tell you guys about. Netflix dropped a tiny little teaser trailer for what's coming up with Stranger Things 4, where they show a lot of kids in captivity into forced play. And then we hear about Papa. We hear the Matthew Modine character, you know, talking about specific things. And we flash over to, we see the number 11 on the door, which is kind of cool. So it looks like we're going to be looping back to some origin type tales to give us a sense of who 11 is and where she comes from. Looking forward to Stranger Things 4 very much. I loved Season 3 so much. Also, Metro Exodus is upgrading to current-gen platforms in June, and they released a little trailer showing off some of the beautiful new details that people are going to see within the game. It was already a great-looking title, has, you know, beautiful HDR lighting and great effects, great visual effects. It's, you know, a really nice sense of immersion. They show it running here on the Xbox Series X at 60 frames per second, so it's just going to feel, you know, much more fluid and look prettier and shinier, and I'm sure, you know, there's going to be some pretty incredible ray tracing effects and stuff on here. If you've never played this game or this series, it is They're wonderful. They're very different from a lot of the other shooters out there. It's really, you know, a resource-depleted shooter, and you have to scavenge for your ammunition, and the enemies are all mutated. This is basically after a huge nuclear devastated reality that you have to exist through, and you meet all kinds of crazy mutants and scabbed up individuals, and you get into some pretty epic confrontations, but there's also a real craftsmanship to the storytelling as well. I really enjoyed this ride, and I can't wait to see this thing running on the new horsepower that's available to us right now. So that comes out in the middle of June. Nintendo also dropped a little trailer today for a new game called Super Animal Royale, and I guess this is a take on Animal Crossing and the Battle Royale craze out there, where you have all of these cute little critters and then you arm them up with machine guns and stuff, and you get them out shooting at each other. It's all kind of 2D puppet vision, I guess, you know, kind of like paper puppets, but it certainly looks cute and a little merciless and maybe a tad cynical, but it's hard to refute that there's some cleverness in there, you know? I don't know how the game is going to play, but it's coming out pretty soon. That one's called Super Animal Royale. There's also the opening sequence for Scarlet Nexus, which dropped today from Bandai Namco, and this trailer is fantastic. Well, it's not really a trailer, it's like the opening sequence, kind of highlighting the energy and the fashion and the kind of cyberpunk qualities of Scarlet Nexus, which is a PS5. I don't think it's on PS4. I think it's PS5 and Xbox Series platforms, and probably PC, but it looks damn cool. It certainly reminds me of Astral Chain, which I absolutely adore, but I love this anime the tease of the game with super fast, hyper beautiful music and lots of great little quick cyber cut sequences and stuff in here. They did a great job with this, and this is sort of, you know, setting the tone for how the game is going to feel, and I'm looking forward to Scarlet Nexus. I hope it lives up to its visual gloss, you know? The game just looks really damn cool. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow with the rundown, so please come back for that. In the meantime, please dig through some of the content on the channel, and if you like our stuff, hit that subscribe button and that little bell to be notified. Thank you to all of our subscribers and our EPN members. We'll see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.